There was a house at the edge of town where the garden never quite slept. Even in late summer, the roses leaned forward as if they wanted to speak, and the grass whispered when the wind passed through. The woman who lived there often wondered if the place held secrets, though she had not yet learned they were her own. One night she dreamed of a field where golden leaves rained down. At first she thought they were ordinary, but when she bent to pick one up, it gleamed like a coin, smooth and warm against her palm. They fell by the thousands, filling her arms, pooling at her feet. She laughed in the dream, not with surprise, but with the calm knowing of someone who had always been meant to receive. She woke smiling. The dream clung to her in the sweetest way, like the scent of lilacs in early June. Her body felt lighter, steadier. Her breath was full, her muscles waiting to be used. A thought arrived unannounced. I could begin tomorrow. I could meet the morning before it rushes past me. So she rose before the sun. She pulled on her shoes, stepped outside, and discovered that dawn is generous to anyone who shows up for it. The sky was still rinsed with stars, and each step she took seemed to wake another part of her body. Her blood hummed, her thoughts smoothed, and by the time the sun lifted, she felt as if she had already lived a small, good day. At work, things seemed to open in her favor. She finished more in an hour than she once did in a whole afternoon. Ideas lined up like children waiting their turn. People noticed, though she didn't try for their attention. They simply felt drawn to the bright, centered rhythm she carried. That evening, she returned to her house at the edge of town. The garden breathed around her, the roses glowing faintly in the dark. She slipped into bed with the kind of tiredness that feels like satisfaction, not depletion. Her sheets were cool, her pillows soft, and she thought, "Tonight I'll sleep as deeply as rivers run." She did, and in that sleep, new dreams unrolled. A letter arriving with astonishing news. An old lottery ticket, forgotten in a drawer, suddenly revealed to be a winner. A friend surprising her with a gift she had once mentioned offhand. Proof that she was heard more deeply than she realized. A stranger offering kindness at exactly the moment she needed, reminding that the world is full of allies. A morning where she woke not to an alarm but to laughter, her own bubbling up before the day even began. Every dream was a door, each one opening into a room of abundance, health, joy. And when she woke, she carried the sense that surprises were already waiting for her, tucked into the folds of ordinary days. A bit of found money in a coat pocket, a sudden streak of energy when she least expected it, an invitation that changed her week for the better. Work doors opened that had once seemed shut. Projects she touched seemed to blossom, her ideas carrying the weight of quiet brilliance. Colleagues leaned on her clarity. Leaders noticed her insight. She didn't just keep up, she set the rhythm. He came into her life. A man who was free in every way that mattered. No half-promises, no shadows trailing behind him. His life was full, successful on its own. He was strong not only in body but in spirit. Mornings found him moving, running, lifting, stretching, alive in his health. Evenings he carried calm in his voice and honesty in his eyes. He was steady enough to stand alone and open enough to stand with her. When they met, she felt the air shift, a warmth that settled into her bones. He was present, kind, and real. And with him, she found herself breathing easier, not smaller, but larger, as though she had been waiting to stretch into this freedom all along. Together, they began to build a life that felt like sunlight poured into every corner. They shared mornings of movement, sometimes running side by side, sometimes pausing to watch the sky soften. At work, her victories multiplied. New contracts, unexpected promotions, opportunities flowing toward her like a tide that had finally turned in her favor. He celebrated each one with her, his pride free of envy, his love a steady mirror reflecting her brilliance back to her. One afternoon, while sorting through an old drawer, she found a ticket she had forgotten. She almost laughed at herself for keeping it, but when she checked the numbers, she felt her knees weaken. It was a winner, not just enough to change a day, but enough to shift the shape of her whole future. Another week, he surprised her with a trip. He had remembered something she had once mentioned, a wish spoken casually, half forgotten, yet here it was, waiting for her. A weekend by the ocean, mornings with salt air and laughter, evenings spent wrapped in starlight. A friend she hadn't seen in years reappeared, carrying good news and joy. A stranger's kindness smoothed what could have been a hard day. An idea that came to her in the shower turned into a project that earned her recognition she had quietly hoped for. The house itself seemed to hum with these blessings. Coins of sunlight scattered across the floors in patterns that felt like promises. Neighbors swore the place glowed at night. The woman would sometimes lie in bed beside him, listening to the rhythm of his breath, and think back to the dream she once had. The golden leaves falling like coins, the sense of being ankle-deep in plenty. She had stepped into that dream. It was richer than she imagined. Wealth, health, freedom, love that expanded her, work that honored her, and surprises that reminded her the universe was always conspiring in her favor. And she slept 8, 9, sometimes 10 hours of deep, unbroken rest, knowing she would rise again to a morning made for her and for the life she was now fully living.